G'day guys and welcome back to another video. Over the weekend whilst I was away, I was having a chat with someone about business relationships, and I realised that my client relationships change quite a lot as my business product moves on. So I thought I'd talk about that in today's video. From a business relationship perspective, I think my business breaks down into 5 areas, and they are the pitch or bid section, and that's where I go out and I try and win work with people and I'm generally having a conversation. Pre-production, which is where I'm writing paperwork, I'm doing basically the script development, and we're getting an understanding as to what that project is. Production itself, and for this it really covers the shooting and the first part of the editing. Then post-production, which is editing and where the client steps in to make changes to the product. And finally closeout or handover, which is where we're closing out the project, handing the files over to the client and looking to basically bill, invoice and finish the product itself. So in our pitch or bid session, which is where we're really first meeting our client, our relationship that we're trying to build is a professional and friendly one. It's a real balance, I think, because basically you don't want to come off as a complete muppet, you want to come off as a friendly person. But at the same time, if you're too over friendly, then you don't really gain that professional respect that you know that you're talking about, and therefore you don't have a good basis to build on from there. So this stage is really difficult because you're trying to get a balance, you're trying to understand how the client interacts with people and therefore how you should interact. In the pre-production stage, it's really a case of being as professional as possible. At this particular point, we're building paperwork that really defines the scope, and therefore it's really important that you don't paint yourself into corners in the future, basically. You're trying to build a good relationship, a good rapport with the client, because the next stage is shooting with them. So you're trying to get an understanding as to exactly what they want and how you're going to deliver it. But at the same time, there's no point in trying to promise something that there's no chance of you delivering. In the shooting stage, it's probably the most enjoyable part because you're trying to be as friendly as possible. You are your client's best friend whilst you're shooting because it's a very stressful period. On a shoot, I'm basically trying to work with the client as best I can to be their friend, because otherwise they feel like they're battling presenting to the camera and battling against you behind the camera as well. So you're really trying to make them understand that yes, it is a stressful process and you're here to help them as best you can. Post-production is probably the difficult part of the relationship. You've done your editing and you're starting to move forward for them to look at the product, and this is often where clients start to see the product in its entirety for the first time, and it's often where they're going to make the most impact they feel from making changes. At this point, there can be a difference of opinions which can lead to conflict, and it's a real tricky balance between trying to manage a client's expectations but also keep them on side to feel like they're actually gaining something. Because ultimately as a business, what you're trying to do is manage the process. Like, we could make changes all the time, but eventually you're going to run out of budget. So it's a case of trying to bring the client back to work with you rather than just them feeling like they're not getting anywhere. If you manage the relationship wrong at this particular point, then it can be really bad news and really unhelpful to your project. At the closeout stage, no matter how well you've done in the previous post-production stage, you'll always feel like, or I always feel like, I'm trying to grab back and build on that relationship. You're trying to move it back to a friendly but professional stage, because ideally what you're looking for is a positive ending note to the project. At this particular point, you're trying to work with them to make sure that your delivery is on time, that the billing and invoicing goes through, that they basically get their files, because at this point they feel like the project is complete and they really want to get hold of that stuff as quickly as possible to then get it out and use it. And if you don't deliver that, then they feel like you're standing in the way. So yeah, I hope that kind of gives some insight into the changing in the client relationship as I progress through a project. I think it's interesting because it's different from most businesses that I've worked in. In previous businesses, it's been more a case of you're constantly trying to build a better and better relationship, and whilst that's still the case here, the relationship is just different. And that's often because you're trying to move your relationship between a professional one, a friendly one, and a management side of things. I guess that's potentially because you play multiple roles within the business. You could almost make that comparison to sales team and product delivery. In a normal business, these would be separated roles, but in a small business like mine, I'm trying to play both, and so I have to play all sort of relationships here. Anyway, I hope that's been interesting and a different view on relationships within a business, specifically my business. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from this sort of content, subscribe to the channel. And as ever, thanks for watching. And guys, I almost forgot. I've got an important meeting today to discuss the potential of a studio. So that could be interesting going forward, right?